So good morning once again, dear students of class 11 and also of class 12, those who will be watching this video later on for your revision purpose. Let us continue from Act 2, Scene 1, page 62 of the Tempest, and let us see what exactly is going on in this scene. So I am scrolling up to the beginning of page 62 in your textbook, though I have taken the text from the internet, and the text is the same, so you don't have to worry about that. You can follow from your textbook itself. So let's begin. So here we are in the beginning of page 62 in your textbook. Antonio says, "Oh, out of that no hope, what great hope have you?" No hope that way. So he means to say that out of that no hope of the survival, no hope regarding the survival of your nephew, that is Ferdinand, what great hope actually comes out for you? Because if he does not survive, then obviously it's something very fortunate for you. So he is hinting at the fact that if Ferdinand has really died by drowning after falling into the ocean or the sea, then if somehow one could get rid of Alonso, the king of Naples, then one could easily proclaim oneself the king of Naples. So that is what Antonio is trying to suggest here. So he says that you have great opportunity in your hand. So he says, no hope that way is another way of so high a hope that even ambition cannot pierce a wink beyond, but doubt discovery there. So what he means to say is that to have no hope about, the meaning is given or explained alongside. If you look at the corner of the textbook of the page 62, then you can see the explanation given there. I'm reading from there, so please follow. To have no hope about the prince being alive means a hope so high about your own fate or fortune. Fate means fortune. That when an ambition cannot look, when an ambition cannot look any lighter, you can now cherish an ambition to the highest, where all objects appear dim. Do you grant me at last this much, that Ferdinand has been drowned? So he says, will you grant with me that Ferdinand is drowned? So the sum total, don't get confused. What he means to say is that when we consider the fact that Ferdinand must have died by drowning, it gives you the opportunity to become lucky. Because in his absence, if he is around, then obviously the king's son, being the king's son, he will become the next king of Naples. But if he is not around, in that case, you have your scope, you have your chance to replace Alonso. And the concept of ambition is what I have read out just now. You can just refer to the explanation once again in the textbook in case if you have any doubt. You can read it over so that you can understand what is being meant here. So do you at this stage allow me to believe that you consider Ferdinand has died by drowning? Sebastian says he's gone. Yes, I consider that he is gone. Antonio says, then tell me who's the next heir of Naples? Then tell me who is the next in line to succeed the king of Naples. If Ferdinand is not around, then who is the next man who will succeed the king? Sebastian says, Claribel. Now this is foolish Sebastian, according to Antonio. Because if the son has died, then obviously the daughter will be the next successor of the king. Now it is possible that instead of the prince, the princess will succeed to the throne of Naples. So Sebastian says Claribel, because the king has one son, one daughter. Now if son is dead, then obviously daughter. Antonio says, she that is Queen of Tunis, she that dwells 10 leagues beyond man's life, she that from Naples can have no note unless the sun were post. You're talking about that girl. She who is now the Queen of Tunis. She who lives so far away, 10 leagues beyond man's life, is a way of expressing that she lives very far away. She that lives 10 leagues beyond man's life. She lives at a distance which is 10 times more than what a man's life happens to be. So what is the average span of a man's life? Say about 60, 70 years, 80, at the most 100. If somebody lives very long, at the most 100. And this girl who is married and is now the Queen of Tunis, she lives 10 leagues beyond that. That means she cannot possibly, from all the way from Naples to Tunis, this distance is so great that she cannot possibly receive the message or get the message. She cannot get any note from Naples unless the sun happens to be the messenger. Because it is only the sun in the sky which can cover this great distance. The man in the moon is too slow. Too slow, the man in the moon. Well, you see those spots in the moon. So there are lots of stories about that, man in the moon. So that is the shadow or the shape of a man who lives in the moon. So if we consider the moon, even the moon is too slow and will not be able to convey the message to Claribel that her father is dead and gone, that she should come back to Naples and she should try and succeed her father. So there is no question of letting her know. She is far away, she is also as good as gone forever. Man in the moon is very slow. We have to consider only the sun as the messenger, if at all this message has to be carried or conveyed to Claribel. Because this distance is so great that newborn chins will become rough and razorable by the time she gets to know what has happened in Naples. So he is exaggerating. Actually, he is trying to mean that it will take a long time for Claribel to come to know that her father is dead and gone. Newborn babies will grow up and become young men. They will have beards coming onto their faces, and it will be time for them to use the razor to shave their chins by the time she gets the message. So this will be the span of time that will probably be required for Claribel to get to know that her father is dead and gone. She that from whom we always see swallowed, though some cast again. It is she because of whom we were all swallowed by the sea. Had it not been for her marriage, we wouldn't have made this trip, this voyage all the way to Tunis. And if we had not made this voyage, then we would not have suffered such a shipwreck. And we would not have been swallowed by the sea, though some of us have survived the shipwreck, some cast again. And by the destiny to perform an act whereof what's past is prologue. Why have we survived? Because it is destiny. Destiny has given us this scope, this chance, this opportunity. What opportunity? That whatever has happened so far is like the introduction of what is going to happen now. Whatever has happened is the prologue. Prologue means introduction. Generally, in the olden times, when playwrights wrote plays, even Shakespeare, for that matter, he has an epilogue in this particular play. When we come to the end of this play, you shall see there is an epilogue. Prologue is something which comes before the actual text begins, and epilogue is something which comes after the actual text of the play gets over. So epilogue is the conclusion, prologue is the introduction. So he says, whatever has happened here is like a prologue or like an introduction to a play. And what to come in yours and my discharge. And whatever is going to happen now is completely in your hand and in my hand. It's in our hands. It's left to us now to carry out. Sebastian, what stuff is this? How say you? 'Tis true, my brother's daughters, Queen of Tunis. What is this stuff or this thing that you are talking about? What exactly do you want to say? I agree with you. It is true that my brother's daughter is now the Queen of Tunis. So is she heir of Naples. But then at the same time, she is also the successor of my elder brother because she is his daughter. So if the son is dead, then obviously daughter will succeed the father. So is she heir of Naples. Heir means successor. Twixt which regions there is some space. But then between Naples and Tunis, I agree with you that there is some space. That means some distance. Antonio says, a space whose every cubit seems to cry out, how shall that Claribel measure us back to Naples? Yes, distance, that's what I'm talking about. Each and every bit of that distance. Cubit is a measure of distance. Each and every cubit, each and every inch, you can say, or each and every centimeter, if you want to put it that way, in modern terms, in simpler terms. Such a vast distance that each and every inch of that distance seems to be crying out and saying, how shall Claribel measure us back to Naples? How shall she be able to come back to Naples? Keep in Tunis and let Sebastian wake. It is not possible for Claribel to come back to Naples so soon. So she will continue to live there in Tunis without any knowledge as to what has happened to her father. And this is the right time for Sebastian to wake up. Wake up, Sebastian, wake up. Say this were death that now hath seized them. Look at these people right in front of us. The entire lot of them all are sleeping. As if by consent they all fell down and they are all fast asleep. So imagine that they are not sleeping, they are actually dead. Death has captured them. Why? They were no worse than now they are. So even if they had died, they would have looked the same. They are looking right now as if they are dead. Even if they had died in real sense, they would have looked the same. So why not put them to death? If they are already lying like the dead before us, why not actually kill them? There be that can rule Naples as well as he that sleeps. There can be somebody who can rule the kingdom of Naples just like the man referring to Alonso who is asleep, just like this man who is ruling Naples now. It's not necessary that he should continue to be the king. Somebody else can replace him and can definitely rule like him. Like this man who is sleeping. And look at these lords. Look at all these noblemen who are also fast asleep. Lords that can prate as amply and unnecessarily as this Gonzalo. I myself could make a cuff of as deep chat. As for people like Gonzalo or these lords, for example Gonzalo who talks so much, prates. So prate and amply, as amply, meaning to say this Gonzalo who talks unnecessarily too much. It's not necessary that this man should be alive. Just as the king can be replaced by somebody else who can rule the kingdom of Naples equally well, similarly, this lord who talks too much can also be replaced. We can kill him, we can kill him. We can kill both of them. And they can be replaced by others. The king will be replaced. You will become king. And this lord, this old lord who talks too much can also be replaced by somebody else who will also equally talk like him, but will be in your favor. Because this lord, he is too faithful to the king, too loyal to the king. I myself could make a cup of as deep chat. Even I can talk like him. Just like he chats, even I can do like that. I can cough up, means I can bring out of my mouth similar kind of words and go on talking and chatting just like this man does. So there is no big deal in that. Anyone can do that kind of thing. The mind that I do, oh, that you bore the mind that I do. Now I really regret, it's a pity actually, you don't have the same kind of mindset which I have. You need to understand what's in my mind and what I expect from you. What a sleep were this for your advancement? Think about it. These guys are sleeping. This is your chance to advance in life. This sleep is actually going to help you to advance in life. Do you understand me? What I mean to say? By now, Sebastian is able to understand little by little what this evil character Antonio is trying to tell him. Sebastian says, methinks I do. I think I do. Antonio says, and how does your content tender your own good fortune? So, if you are able to understand, then in what way does your content, that is your satisfaction, tender your own good fortune? So how would you like to satisfy? What he means to say is that how would you like to satisfy your desire of good fortune? If you have understood what I have told you just now, then how do you expect to fulfill what you want? Sebastian says, I remember you did supplant your brother Prospero. I remember very well that you have got rid of your brother. You have superseded your brother, or you have overcome him and got rid of him and taken his place. Your brother Prospero. Antonio says, true, and look how well my garments sit upon me. Yes, I have done that. And look at me, how well suited I am to this new position as Duke of Milan. Garments, he is not literally referring to his clothes. What he means to say is that my position now as the Duke of Milan suits me so well. Look at me. I am doing fine. Much fitter than before. My brother's servants were then my fellows. Now they are my men. My brother's servants, when I was just the prince, they were my companions, friends, at the same level with me. Now they are my men because they are my subordinates. I am their master. I am the duke. Sebastian says, but for your conscience? But what about your inner voice, your sense of guilt, your conscience? What about it? Antonio says, hey sir, where lies that? Conscience? What conscience? Where does it lie? I have never felt it. If it were a kibe, it would put me to my slipper, but I feel not. Had it been a sore in my toe, when I would have worn a slipper, I would have felt the pain, but I never feel it. This deity in my bosom, I have never felt the presence of this goddess conscience in my heart. 20 consciences that stand twixt me and Milan, candide be they, and melt or they molest. What of one conscience, even if there were 20 consciences lying between or coming in between me and my dukedom of Milan, I would have I would have melted them away before they could do any harm to me. Before they could molest me, I would have melted them, erased them, removed them completely. What of one conscience, even 20 consciences, I would have overcome those. Here lies your brother. Here lies your brother. So we'll stop here. You see, we have come to the place where page 63 comes to an end. We will stop at line number 305. Candide bide, and melt they molest. So mark up to this much. In our next video tutorial, we'll carry on from page 64. So we have come to the end of page 63 according to your textbook, though it is not showing here on the screen. We have started from the beginning of page 62 and we have come to the end of page 63. So we'll continue again in our next video tutorial, which will come up again on Monday. So until then, thank you very much.